to believe. Believe they even existed.
Oh,
And when
yeah.
the truth finally dawns,
Oh, yeah.
it dawns in fire.
That's right. That's right. Bring it on in. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's one they fear, born.
Skyrim, baby. It's back. But wait a second. It's already been out for 6 years. Hey guys, what's up? It's Jeff. So I know it's been a little while since I've uploaded, but you know, I thought it'd be fun with the current climate of E3 and all the things to talk about some of my favorite games that I saw at E3 as, you know, it happened. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to make like a top 10 list of my favorite games that I saw. There were a lot of games there that I actually really thought looked cool. I didn't think any conference in particular kind of blew me away though, but there were a few things that I was definitely interested in seeing. So I guess let's just start with my list. Skyrim, first of all. No, okay, I'm just joking. First on my list, at like number 10, I guess, is Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm actually kind of a fan of the first game, even though it was really just not fleshed out. It just didn't have enough content. I actually enjoyed the game itself, though. I had fun playing it, and when it came out, I was actually pretty hype about it, but you know, as those games do sometimes, it didn't really have longevity, and it was all behind like a paywall that was kind of absurd. Like what was the season DLC pass or something was probably like $50 or $40, or was it even, I don't know. It was a lot, and I didn't want to pay for the game basically twice just to play it, and so my game that I have is basically just a bare bones lame version. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 looks to kind of solve those issues. At least they promise that the issues will be solved. We'll see kind of what happens, but I'm not gonna really hold my breath. EA's kind of done that before, where they make promises and maybe don't follow through with them, or they just kind of have really terrible DLC models. And I mean, I'll be forthright that I'm not like I dislike DLC pretty much. So maybe I'm a little biased, but maybe you also agree with me that the DLC system that EA has is a little bit, it reaches a lot. But no, Star Wars Battlefront 2 looks really good. I really like that they're going back to like episode, like the prequels, just for the battles and things like that, and bringing those characters in. And then they have like Finn and Rey and Kylo Ren, which is awesome. I can't actually, like, some of the best parts of the original Battlefront, and even the two other Battlefronts before that, well, I guess 2 and 1, weird, but was the fact that you could play as the heroes. And in the original Battlefront 2, that was like a huge draw for me, and it was a lot of fun whenever you could get online and you actually became the hero. And it looks like they revamped the system too, because it's based on like resource points. Like you can't just go out and grab the little icons anymore, which is really cool. I actually enjoy that they are changing that, because people would just camp the hero icon at the beginning. You'd never see that unless you knew exactly where to go right away, and you got a head start. So that's really cool that they're changing that aspect of it. It looks like now you build up points by like killing people or playing the objective. So if you're just doing well, you'll have more points to spend later in the match, and then you can start bringing out like Darth Maul or something. And that's really cool. Location wise, like there was some cool levels, like they showed off like the Theed Palace, which looks pretty awesome actually. Like it was cool because it was like, I really like this idea too, where it's mechanically like, oh, it's large scale, and then they like the whole objective was like the separatists were sieging the palace, and then they blow up the gate to the palace, and then everyone storms in, and it's like the second stage of the same level, and it's more like close proximity and like claustrophobic and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool, and it because I think what was missing from the original Battlefront was just straight up like foot soldier combat, more or less. Like there was always vehicles flying around and like getting all the kills, and it was just ridiculous. So I'm excited for that. I think it's gonna be awesome. I think that if they keep their promises and mechanically it stays relatively the same, but they change, like I like that they're bringing back the classes and stuff too. So if like with all these changes and all the feedback that they've gotten from the first one, I hope it is good, and I'll probably pick it up. All right, number 9, Shadow of War. The Lord of the Rings game. They showed off a little bit more of it. They actually had like a video conference, like I feel like a while back, where they showed off the game. So this isn't like a new game by any means, but seeing it again just reminded me how much I'm looking forward to it. It looks really good. I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, like the movies, and I mean I've read the books, but they can go on for a while. So aside, you know, the game looks good though. People were saying like, oh, like what was the first Middle Earth game didn't do it for them. Like that Nemesis system wasn't like a huge thing for them, a huge draw, which is fine. I thought the system was really cool. I enjoyed the game. It did get like a little, I feel like it got a little grindy towards the end, because you were just going around and like taking over different orcs, and you just kind of had to wait for them to go through the ranks if some of your guys died. But now it's more, it looks more like they're building on that system in which you're taking over people, but now you have to like take over places too, which I really like. I really like the idea of being like this character who's kind of overpowered and having to like build up an army and take over and siege like these castles and areas. I think that's awesome. And it looks like they improved upon the mechanic of like the revenge mechanic. I guess it's still part of the same system, but when people kill you or you kill them, they'll just come back every once in a while, and they'll be stronger, and they'll remember what happened to them, and all that stuff. It seems like a good time, you know? I think what's really cool is that they kind of showed off like all the different moves and things that you can do, and how like maybe there's more passive things going on this time, where because your main focus is taking over areas. I remember in like the not E3 video that they showed a long time ago, it looked like you could like set specific orcs to be like the leaders of certain areas, and that just sounds like really cool. That's like right up my alley. So it looks good. I hope that we get it soon. I can't remember if they announced the release date or not, but it looks pretty good. All right, at number 8, I'm gonna put Detroit. It looks interesting. I'll give it that. Like, I don't know. It's I haven't played Heavy Rain all the way. I only know like what I've seen online basically from it, and the very little that I played myself. And I did play, what was it? There's like 2 other games. Wasn't like Indigo Prophecy or Fahrenheit one of them? And I've played that one all the way through, but that game is old, and I don't even know if that's the same guy. But it's like Detroit. This looks like this super story-driven game that's just based on like androids, and I don't know. It looks interesting. It looks kind of like one of those games where like every little decision you make is going to affect every little thing in waves. And so I'm wondering how long the game is actually going to be, or it'll be the opposite, which is it'll have the illusion that all these things are affecting all these little things across the entirety of the game, and it'll pull like a Mass Effect 3 on us or something, and it's just like, well, it kind of just, it ends, or something. What happens if there's a sequel? I don't know. Who's the guy that's making it? It's like Dave Cage, or I know it's Cage. I'll call him Cage. But it looked interesting. It's like the rise of these androids coming up and just kind of going to town and becoming sentient, essentially, or possibly, who knows. But it looks interesting. It piqued my curiosity. I'll just say that. So coming in at number 7, I have The Last Night, which was kind of a weird one just because the guy came out and like apologized for something right away. I have no idea. I'm gonna stay out of it, but the game itself looked really cool. It was like this pixel art style sprite-based game, like a 2D game, and it had like all these really cool visual elements to it. So it just kind of looked like this like cyberpunk or like film noir looking 2D platformer adventure game, but he also said like there was things that would happen in the game where you would make these decisions and they would affect the outcome. I think the game takes course over a few different days or something like that. So he was talking about how like you would make a choice in the first day and it would ripple into the next days, and I feel like that's really cool, and definitely more viable in like a minimalist game where you're kind of like going on a 2D adventure instead of like a huge 3D game with like lore and all, like Mass Effect or something. It's like it's much easier to do something like that on a small scale, in a linear story on a small scale with like little branches versus like this huge thing like what Detroit's trying to do, or even like Mass Effect or something. But it does, like The Last Night does look genuinely cool. I'm interested to see, we didn't see like how it really plays. It was kind of more like the game, like what we saw was almost just like establishing shots. So it didn't seem like it was going to be like this action-packed game. It kind of seemed more like almost like Blade Runner or something like that, like where it's just kind of like super futuristic and the robots have taken over and you're useless. Oh no, what do I do? That's the dilemma we all face. How can I be useful? So it looks really cool. I definitely want to see some more of it, so I'll be looking out for it. And I think it was the highlight that was shown off during the Microsoft one, I believe. And that was definitely one that stood out more to me than even some of the AAA games. Alright, at number 6, I have the South Park game. This isn't news, I guess, again, but they did show it off again, and it looks really good, and I think this is mostly biased and based off the fact that the first South Park game, or The Stick of Truth, was genuinely funny and fun to play through, and I actually think it's one of the better RPGs, ironically enough, to come out in a long time, because they actually took the like lineup mechanic of old RPGs, which I feel like no one does anymore besides maybe like Bravely Default or something now, which I haven't played, but or I haven't played the second one, but The Stick of Truth was really good, really enjoyed it, and I really liked how there was all the different classes, but it was all pretend, and it looks like they're keeping that trend through to the next game, but this time, of course, instead of medieval fantasy, it's going to be about superheroes, and so I'm definitely interested to see where they take it. It looks like the combat has changed, which is like the one thing I'm like sort of reserved about. It looks like it's more about like tactical, like it's like a grid and you kind of have to like tactically place your guys, but we'll see. I mean, we still don't really know like a ton about it and like what even like the story necessarily is. I guess it doesn't matter, it's South Park, right? Who cares? Alright, at number 5 I have Ooblets. I actually didn't know anything about this game. This is the first time that I'm seeing it. I think that it was announced a while back, recently, or like some information had come out about it. But it looks like this really cute, like almost minimalist graphical overhead style, or like bird's eye view. I don't know, like you play as like a character that you can customize, and you run around, and it's like kind of got Harvest Moon elements in it apparently, where you're like growing these creatures, so you kind of have to like plant them and grow them, and then they grow up, and then wait, they're like companions now, and so apparently they just follow you around, and then you like level them up, so it's kind of got like Pokemon vibes, and it just looked interesting. Like it was checking off some boxes for me that I would probably enjoy this game. It just kind of has this unique style that really stood out over other things, I think. It just kind of looks like one of those games where you just kind of like sit back and relax, and you don't have to like take it too seriously, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that actually adds a lot especially for me when I'm looking at games these days. I'm not necessarily looking for like the most action-packed or whatever game, but it does look interesting. It looks really cool, and it just checks off those boxes. I think people who like Pokemon are gonna like it. People who like Harvest Moon are gonna like it, and I think like combining those things is actually kind of a good idea. We'll see how like the battles and stuff like that work. They didn't really show too much of it. It kind of looks like a turn-based battle system, but maybe on like a 3D plane or something. I can't, honestly, it didn't really stand out. So for me, that could make or break it, honestly, because I'm such a stickler when it comes to how the combat works in games, that if it's really like not good, at least in my opinion, then I just don't like it, because I always think about like, what are you doing the most in a game, and it's probably the combat. And if the combat's not good, then why am I playing the game? So we'll see if it's good, but I am definitely interested. It looks like a lot of fun. Number 4, Cuphead. Cuphead is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. I think they announced it like 2 years ago or something like that now. And I'm noticing a trend about this list now, and it's that I didn't put a lot of new games on here. I'm mostly sticking to my guns on the ones that I was already excited about. But like Cuphead is definitely looking really good. I am curious how it's gonna feel though when you're actually playing it, like if the game feel or whatever is gonna be good, because I think that with a lot of games like Cuphead, like Contra, or any other shooty McShoot game where you're just running left to right and doing, you know, shooties. Good. In any game like that, I think that one of the hardest things about it is making it feel good to do that. And I think that maybe because of the aesthetical style of Cuphead looking like some sort of super old Disney, like Mickey video or something like that, or Looney Tunes even, is going to help it aesthetically pop and feel good while you're playing it. And I think that will also keep people wanting to move forward and play the game. Because I'm just gonna be like, oh, what's the next boss gonna be? Or like, what's happening? And I think that because of that, that's gonna make that game like good. And it's not often that I would be like, oh, the aesthetics of the game means so much. I mean, I feel like I'm more of a stickler for that kind of thing nowadays more than ever. But at the same time, I know that graphics doesn't make a game fun. I mean, one of my favorite games is like Mountain Blade Warband, and that game does not look amazing, but like the mechanics of the game are really good. By the way, super looking forward to Mountain Blade 2. It's not on this list though because they didn't announce a freaking release date, and it was supposed to be Q4. I'm getting sidetracked. It was supposed to be Q4 2016. Can you believe that? Or was it Q1 2017? We're past it. That's right, we're past it, and now there's no release date. And they had that like one trailer during the PC thing. I was like, what? Okay, rant over. But point is, Cuphead looks pretty dang good, right? All right, coming in at number 3 is Mario Odyssey. Looks phenomenal. I guess like the new thing that they showed off today was basically that Mario could possess all the different enemies. Like he could possess Boos and Bullet Bills and cars. It's time to go play Cario, right? Right? It's kind of weird though, like the game itself looks unfinished to me. Like it looks like these worlds may be too big. I think that the one thing that is worrying me is about the game is that like you don't see coins everywhere. You don't like, it's not like contained, like these worlds aren't as contained, they're more vast. And I'm wondering how that's going to affect the game itself. I think like the only game I can think of that has bigger levels is like Galaxy, I guess. But even then you're on like smaller spherical planets and then go to another one. Oh, excuse me. But in this game, it just looks like the worlds themselves are massive. And I feel like that could be a problem, especially if there's just not a lot to do. And then it might run into the problem of just being kind of empty. But the game from the trailers looks really cool. You can go to like New York. There was like a Spanish themed area, I don't know, Spanish themed area. Oh, apparently that's Spanish. There was, I mean, I guess like the one they were really showing off was like New York basically, but it was like, was it Donkey Kong Town or whatever? And apparently the mayor is Pauline. I don't know. It looks interesting, I guess. Or at least that idea is interesting. But yeah, you can turn into like all these things. So I'm wondering like how mechanically that's going to work. I mean, you can just turn into things at a whim, obviously, but are they going to incorporate that like super heavily into like puzzles and make it more puzzle centric based on the enemies that are in the area? Or does that just give you more things to do? Or like different ways to solve the thing, or get like, I saw you were collecting like moon pieces or something. So maybe that's what you're collecting throughout the entire thing. I didn't really watch the treehouse that happened right after because I was trying to keep it light. But it looks really good. It looks like they're finally kind of deviating away from Mario Galaxy a little bit, which I'm kind of glad about. I like Mario Galaxy. I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but it makes me dizzy. So looking at it just wasn't fun, even though I thought the game was good. But I'm kind of glad that it's going back to more of like standardized Mario. And I've always kind of wanted it to be just a normal 3D Mario adventure without like the gimmick of the like camera from Galaxy and stuff like that. I really think that Galaxy was cool, like the mechanics of it were, but like just the camera itself, just like it hurt my brain, you know? So I'm looking forward to just having like a regular expansive Mario adventure again that's more akin to like Sunshine or Mario 64. I think that'll be really cool. All right, at number 2, we got Sea of Thieves. Again, they showed it off, more of it off this year, and it is looking pretty good, if you ask me. I actually really like the idea of having a pirate game. And I know that there are pirate games out there, and I think probably one of the most notable ones is Sid Meier's Pirates. But that game is old now. That game is so old. And I'm trying to think of some other ones. There was like some SNES ones, Uncharted Waters, right? And what else? There was this old DOS PC game that I could never find called Cutthroats. That's all I can think of. That's really all I can think of. I know there was like some other PS2 games and of course Pirates of the Caribbean games and stuff like that, but not like a real, hey, like a adventure-based pirate game. I feel like that hasn't really been done, which is ironic though, because Sea of Thieves has kind of been in the works for a while, and then Sony announced, what was it, like Skull and Blood or whatever. What, do I have it written down? No. They announced another pirate game, but it looks kind of more like a competitive pirate game, if that makes sense. Like, imagine if like For Honor had like 5-on-5 and it was just the boats and you all just controlled boats and you were just like finger boats. It looks okay. Like, mechanically it looks okay, and it kind of looks almost like Assassin's Creed Black Flag's like ship combat a little bit. But like, just that's the focus of the whole game. But back to Sea of Thieves though, on the other hand, looks more like an adventure game, whereas you get a group of people together and you go off and be pirates, and it looks really good actually. I think that if I got like, you know, like Austin and Jared and Ian together, or people from Hidden Block together, and we all sat down and played Sea of Thieves, it would be a whole lot of fun. Especially if we got into it a little bit and maybe even just like roleplay just a little bit, just enough. But it seems like the game itself, mechanically, has a lot of things in it that are going to be really interesting. Like, I didn't know about the map stuff that they showed off, where you kind of have like a riddle in front of you, and it's just like, oh, the person has the map or the riddle, and it's just that person who has it, and they have to like show it to other people, and then we have to like work through it together to find the treasure. And it's just like, well, okay, it's like, in the like the trailer that they showed off, it was like, oh, let's go behind the waterfall, and then show the light on the skeleton thing, and then it was like, from there take 10 steps north, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, it just seemed like a lot of fun. And then I was like, when I was watching the press conference, and they were starting to go underwater to like a shipwreck. That looked super cool. Like you're salvaging this underwater ship, and then like a shark showed up, and I was just like, oh, this is terrifying, because sharks in water absolutely terrify me. So I was definitely a little like, no, scary, but at the same time, it was like, of course there's gonna be sharks in a pirate game. There would not be sharks in a pirate game. The other thing that they showed off was that you could like launch yourself into cannons, and you could board the other ships that way. So it's like, launch me to the other ship, and you're just like, and you just go off, and then you're suddenly like, all right, I'm here, and then just start fighting everyone on the other ship, and that just looked super cool. Like, I could just totally see me and some friends being like, okay, let's go, and then we all just like launch over, but we totally miss the ship and just like start drowning, and we're just like, oh no. I could totally see that happening. Like, everyone's just gonna miss it completely. But it'll be really funny at least, and you'll have it just seems like the type of game where there's gonna be stories. Like, there's gonna be like, oh yeah, Sea of Thieves, that game is fun. Like, this happened when I went and did all this stuff, and it was so funny, or something. You know, like just stuff like that. And I think that's what's most appealing to me about it. Instead of whereas Blood or Skull and Blood or whatever is more or less just. This seemed more on the competitive side. The Sea of Thieves seems more on like an experience side, and I think aesthetically it'll hold up more too, because of its like more cartoony look, and it's made by Rare. So maybe they'll have some good characters or funny characters in there, and I think that most of it though is going to come down to what friends you play with. So it's just one of those games where you need a good group of friends, and it'll be a lot of fun. At least that's what I expect and think. Alright, my number 1 pick, which was a total surprise, Monster Hunter World coming to PlayStation 4. Insane. Totally out of left field. That was not expected at all. As soon as it came on, I was like, is this Monster Hunter? I was like questioning it. I was like, there's no way that this is Monster Hunter. But sure enough, Monster Hunter came out. And it's like this built from the ground up. Monster Hunter's never looked this good before. And like mechanically too, there was so many more things going on. And it looked more like hunter-y, if that makes any sense. It looked more like you had to plan ahead and you had to do all this other stuff. Like you had like this camo suit and you had like a grappling hook you could like grapple, which was insane. I think that is one of the things that Monster Hunter sorely lacks right now, which is like mobility moves. They kind of fixed that in Monster Hunter Generations a little bit, but not a lot. I feel like, I mean, there's definitely more mobile weapons than others, but in this new game, it kind of just looks like that's just an item you might have, or maybe you have limited uses. Who knows? Mechanically, we know nothing about how the game is going to realistically work. But apparently, it has like open areas. Like no longer are they all the different areas zoned off. It's like one expansive area, and you have to track the monster, and it can follow you the entire way now, and all these things. It just looked really cool, and Monster Hunter has, again, never looked this good. It looks like they built it from the ground up for PlayStation 4, and it looks like it's going to be on PC as well, eventually, and Xbox One X, or whatever that name is. Xbox One X. I didn't see Xbox One X on the list, or did I? I can't remember, but PlayStation 4, PC for sure. It said PC like later too, so we might not even get it right away, which is unfortunate. But if they allow you to like upload your character and download it to PC or something like that, I would definitely consider getting it for both, just to get my hands on it early, just because I'm such a big fan of Monster Hunter. But that's probably just me. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably wouldn't do that. The game itself just looked really cool though, like the guy was kind of tracking the monster, and it looked like there was things you could do to like the world to like break it apart. It's like the world was kind of used in hurting the monster or like hunting the monster, and like they had like a pitfall trap, but it looked way better. Like the guy just doesn't fall into the ground anymore. He was like ensnared, and he got like knocked away, and like could actually use the grappling hook to like instantly grapple back and just be like, "What's up?" And so that was really cool to see. Again, with like the more mobility side of things, and it looked like there could possibly be multiple monsters, of course, as the like a Raytheon or a Rathalos, I can't remember which, kind of came down and started fighting this like T-Rex-esque monster that was in the trailer from like sort of the beginning, and they kind of start fighting, and it was just super cool to see all of this stuff in like this new high fidelity, super high graphics setting. It looks like the game mechanically is going to be so different, just based on what you actually saw in the trailer. Like they're gonna keep as much as they can, but it just looked like it was gonna be a whole different thing. So I'm wondering if it's going to be, like, I'm wondering how close to the same game it's going to be. And ironically enough, what's gonna happen now with like the Nintendo line of Monster Hunters, I'm really skeptical now about those, because I feel like this new one is probably just gonna be so much better because it's not the old system anymore. And I think that's something that Monster Hunter actually did genuinely need. I just did not see it coming at all. They announced, like, what was it, like less than a week ago or 2 weeks or whatever. It was very recently that they announced Monster Hunter Cross, Monster Hunter Cross, Double Cross for the Switch, and it just kind of seemed like I was like, well, I guess that kind of rules out a new Monster Hunter for a while, and I got proved wrong. It's just not gonna be on Nintendo apparently, which is, I mean, hey, that's okay with me. I mean, I'll just play it on PlayStation 4, I guess. It is interesting though. Are they gonna do like sequels in the older style of Monster Hunter 2 at the same time? Are they gonna like keep the Nintendo line going with like a newer one, because those ones might be easier to make, and mechanically speaking they have everything like made already? Because I'm betting that in Monster Hunter World we're actually not going to get all of the mechanics that we have in the current Monster Hunter. I'm betting they're gonna scale back and focus on like the new stuff, which is fine. It's just, it will, like, are they gonna take out like the special moves that they put into Monster Hunter Cross? Are they gonna take out monsters? I can't imagine there being like as many monsters as there are now in Monster Hunter Cross in this new game. There's probably only gonna be as many as were in like Monster Hunter Tri when that came out, or something like that. At least based on what I think anyway. Just my opinion, I guess. So I think that's my top 10 list. There were some other really cool kind of looking games, obviously, but those were kind of like my favorite lists. I mean, I guess I could talk about the other ones just a little bit that were kind of piquing my interest, just cause. I know that they announced PUBG coming to consoles. I really like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I think that game is super slick. Like, I think it's a real fun time. Like, I was kind of like in the middle somewhere, at the beginning anyway, but I'm kind of just like warmed up to it. It's once you play squads. I think once you play squads with friends is when the game really shines. And I think the cool thing about it possibly being on consoles is that everyone's gonna have the same graphics setting. Unless it has crossplay, then because everyone on the current PC game turns their foliage slider all the way down, and it's just kind of like a mess. A Way Out looked super cool. I really like the idea of someone committing to like a full co-op experience, and it was really interesting to see how like one person would be in a cutscene and another person would be like walking around and doing things that they have to get done or something in order to break out of prison. So that game is on my watch list for sure. We got the Dragon Ball Fighter Z game. I think that it looks to me kind of like if Dragon Ball Z mixed with Marvel vs. Capcom, which is actually really cool. I think that that's a really neat idea, and there's so many characters in Dragon Ball Z, so that totally works. One of my favorite like fighting Dragon Ball Z games was actually Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3! Nailed it. I really liked Budokai Tenkaichi 3, especially if you get used to like the weird combat system and all that. Haven't played it in a long time, but I'm sure it still holds up. Dragon Ball Fighter Z though looked cool, like at least on the feed that I was watching, the generated cutscenes, like the animation looked really framey, but the in-game stuff didn't, which is what matters. So hopefully the game is really good. And then there was BioWare's new RPG Anthem, which yeah, it looks kind of like this. Like almost like it's weird because it almost looks like if Mass Effect Andromeda, like, because you're in like these mech suits and things mixed with like, I don't know, like The Division or something. I don't know if that's an apt I don't know if that's an apt description. Yeah, I don't know if that's an apt description or not, but it kind of reminds me of like it's trying to be an MMO or maybe like Destiny or something like that, where it's kind of like open world and you're in like these mech suits that you can customize, and it just kind of looked not for me. But at the same time, I would be interested to see more because it's BioWare, if that makes sense. They showed off State of Decay 2, which I actually do like the first State of Decay, but I think if we were gonna say like the winner of like the zombie game like genre, if there was a winner of it, it would be Days Gone. Days Gone looks super cool. The only thing that I didn't really like about the Sony press conferences was all the games were kind of samey. They were all like third-person action games, which was like weird. Like I don't know. Like it was kind of like they had God of War, which looks phenomenal, by the way. I think God of War is like was close to making this list for me. Actually, I might even switch it out for Detroit. Just because, I don't know, like super story, but I thought Detroit was interesting enough. But God of War looks phenomenal, honestly. And but like again, Sony was kind of leaning on these like third-person story-driven action games like really hard. And Days Gone is one of those games. The thing that made it stand out more than like State of Decay though for me though was just the sheer amount of stuff on screen. Like it just seems like for the first time maybe that getting overwhelmed by zombies is going to like actually make you fear for what's going on, which is awesome. And how you could use them to like get rid of your enemies and use them to like almost like set traps for people, but it's also like really risky because like one of the examples was they like put like some dynamite on like a dam of sorts, and you blow the dam, but it makes enough noise for all the zombies to like pour through, and they just like overtook like all the guys that he needed to kill. And so now I'm just wondering if you do that, can you like take them out one by one, or is it just like you don't have to use all the zombies and you can play it really like quietly. I think that adds like so much more to like what's going on, and I think like having those kinds of decisions is really cool. It does look like super story driven too, so I don't know. It looks like it could be good. It's definitely on my watch list for sure. Maybe just not closer to the top for me. There was that one game, Moss, the one with the mouse, where it's like this like adventure puzzle game where you play as a mouse or you play as something helping the mouse, and you're kind of like directing him around and like helping him fight stuff and solve puzzles and all these things. And it looked interesting, aesthetically anyway. Also, it stood out a lot more than anything else. There was the new Assassin's Creed Origins game that takes place in ancient Egypt, which actually I think is really cool. I really like the setting, and I really like just that style and architecture of ancient Egypt. So I think that could be really cool, actually. You play as like a Magi and an assassin, obviously, because it's Assassin's Creed and you kill people. But it looked like it incorporated more RPG stuff, though. Like it seemed to like enemies had levels and you had weapons that did damage, and it looked like you were going to be like upgrading your gear and equipment and all that stuff. So it looked like they were taking things up a notch, which is really good. I think that Assassin's Creed has gotten kind of stale and stagnated, and I haven't played it since like Assassin's Creed 2 or even 3. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Everyone says to play the pirate one, which is 4, and I still haven't done that. Probably because I just don't think I like Assassin's Creed that much, but this one looks really good, and it might actually get me to try it out again, just because maybe coming back to it after all this time, and it's like this is obviously like the next core game from them, and it having like this setting that I would enjoy, and all of the things that they've done to the games over the years. coming back to it might actually be really fun. So we'll see, but it looks awesome. You can like scout people out with like an eagle companion, and I was just like, that's kind of like, to me that just kind of seemed like they took from like Watch Dogs and like the drone stuff where you could scout with the drone. It was just like, well, we need a drone, but we're in ancient Egypt, so what do we got? Eagles. We got eagles. So hopefully it actually works out really well. I also kind of felt a little bit of like Breath of the Wild in that trailer in a weird way. It seemed like they were focused on like the nature aspect of it, and there was of course like that bow shot where it's just like, yeah, I'm in the air, boo, like that kind of happened. So I think that it has the potential. The potential is definitely there. I think two other big major ones that I'm sorry I just didn't necessarily care about were like Beyond Good and Evil 2, because I haven't played the first one. I know. It's sad. And the two new Metroid games, apparently. I'm not a huge Metroid fan either. I don't know why. I'm just not. Maybe it's just because I've never really played them. Like, I've played like I played the Super Nintendo one. That's pretty much the only one I've played. And I didn't necessarily really like it. I'm wondering if I would like it a lot more as an adult versus being a kid, because I feel like when I was a kid, the game might have just been too hard. But nowadays, I'd probably be like, yeah, it's all right. But I just haven't gotten around to like catching up on it. But that was just that was a huge surprise to a lot of people, I'm sure. Just having like two new Metro games, people were probably like, what? Just like that. There was also the Kirby and Yoshi games, but they'd have tentative titles from Nintendo. Nintendo's press conference was probably like one of the weaker ones, honestly. I don't think that it was long enough, and also it didn't have some things that like, it's like, why wasn't ARMS shown? That game comes out in like a few days, right? Like, they didn't show anything of that game. I guess because people have already got reviews and stuff out for it. They talked about like some of the DLC for Zelda, which was pretty interesting. Like, I'm interested in coming back to that game for sure. I think that it had like one of these trials. There's like, spoiler alert, I guess. There's a trial in the game like right now where you basically like have to survive on an island and they take away all your weapons and stuff like that. And it seems like there was like a new one of those in the DLC, which I'm down for. If it's like a longer one too, where it just kind of wipes your slate clean and you just kind of have to do some stuff, I'm down for that. And then they kind of teased like some other stuff too with like the Guardians, that maybe there's like a quest line having to do with, or maybe you go back in the past and play alongside the Guardians or something like that. Maybe that's just like hypothesis, but we'll see what actually happens. I think I'm actually more interested in just getting the hard mode for the game though too. And I'm a little salty that it's not gonna be out for free, but at the same time, the hard mode will add a lot to that game, I think, because I think you get to a certain point in that game, it just kind of gets too easy. It really does. It gets so easy. There's maybe only like one or two enemies that even stand a chance. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this long rant about E3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment down below if you want to tell me which game you're looking forward to the most. I think I'd be interested to hear. I probably don't take my list too seriously. I kind of think that I just kind of like threw it together just as like a fun thing to talk about it, because it was fun. It was fun to watch all that stuff. I actually streamed some of them, and people came and like hung out and all that kind of stuff. I'll actually link them at the end of this video, and if you want to watch my reactions live. But it was a lot of fun, and I feel like this year was pretty good. Not like amazing, but pretty good. And I think that's also due to the fact that most of these things on this list were not necessarily new this year. It was more things that I knew already existed. So Let me know which games you're most hyped for in the comments down below, and let me know what you think. So, till the next video. Oh yeah, next video is coming really soon. Just kind of wanted to do this as like a little fun thing. But next video is coming really soon. It's gonna be a top 10, so I'll see you guys in that next video. And until then, stay hammy.